A simple old penny, or a hidden piece of history worth checking twice? Welcome back to Change Your Life. Today, we're exploring 3 Lincoln Wheat Pennies that collectors still keep an eye on. 1953 D Wheat Penny. 1955 Wheat Penny, no mint mark. 1944 Wheat Penny, no mint mark. These coins feature the iconic wheat ears reverse design and were struck in a classic bronze/copper composition that makes them a key part of U.S. coin history. Most of these pennies are worn, dirty, and heavily circulated, the kind people usually ignore without a second thought. But collectors often look for rare varieties, mint errors, and high-grade examples that can stand out from ordinary finds. Even small details like a date, strike quality, or condition can change how a coin is viewed. Before you spend that old wheat penny, take a closer look, because something ordinary might not be ordinary at all. Let's begin with coin number 1, before we talk about value. Before we talk about rarity. There is something far more interesting about old coins. Their journey. Because sometimes a coin is not famous, but it becomes unforgettable because of what it has survived. And today's story begins with a coin most people think is ordinary. The 1953 D Lincoln Wheat Penny. A small copper coin. Simple design. Familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front. Wheat stalks on the back. And a tiny D mint mark that most people never even notice. But behind that simplicity, there is a long hidden journey. A journey that started in Denver and quietly entered millions of pockets across America. The year 1953 was not a quiet time. It was a period of rebuilding. Post-war America was growing fast. Cities expanding. Factories running. People working. Money moving constantly from hand to hand. And in that flow of daily life, this penny became part of everything. When the 1953 D Wheat Penny first left the mint, it was sharp, bright, and perfect. The copper surface had a warm glow. Lincoln's portrait was clean and strong. The wheat design on the reverse looked crisp and balanced. At that moment, it was just another new coin entering circulation. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. Just money. But coins are not meant to stay new. Their real life begins after release. The moment this penny entered circulation, its story changed forever. It might have been handed out as change in a small grocery store. It might have been dropped into a cash register in a busy city shop. It might have traveled inside a pocket across towns and states. No one recorded its path. No one tracked its journey. But every movement left a trace. Slowly, the coin began to change. The bright shine faded. The copper surface became darker. Tiny marks appeared from constant handling. Edges softened from years of contact. This is what collectors call circulation life. Not damage, but history written on metal. Because every scratch means movement. Every worn surface means time passed. And every faded detail means survival. Think about how many hands this coin may have passed through. A shopkeeper giving change. A child receiving it for the first time. A worker spending it during a break. A traveler carrying it unknowingly in a pocket. Each moment is small. But together, they build decades of silent history. That is what makes circulated coins powerful. They connect us to everyday life that no one documented. No photos. No records. Only the coin remains. Even today, the 1953 D Wheat Penny still appears in old collections and forgotten jars. Some are heavily worn. Some are lightly circulated. Some were saved accidentally and rediscovered years later. Each one carries a different version of the same year. No two coins live the same life. And that is the mystery. Because coins are not just objects. They are travelers. They move through generations without asking permission. They witness changes in society without saying a word. They survive through decades of human activity and still remain recognizable. That is the real power of the 1953 D penny. Not just its age, but its survival. It connects modern collectors to a time when cash ruled daily life. When every purchase involved coins. When pocket change had real movement in the economy. And when small pennies played a big role in everyday transactions. Now imagine something important. This coin survived everything. Economic changes. Generational shifts. Technological revolutions. Yet it still exists. Still recognizable. Still telling its silent story. And that is why collectors study coins like this carefully. Not only for rarity, but for history. For movement. For the invisible journey it carried across decades. Because every coin like this is a time capsule. A small piece of the past still present today. But this is only the beginning of our story. Because the next coin takes us deeper into mystery. A penny that people often misunderstand. And one that created confusion, curiosity, and collector interest for decades. The year is 1955. And its story continues in part 2. Now we move forward. Into a year that carries more curiosity than most people expect. 1955. A simple date on a small copper coin. But in the world of coin collecting, this year always attracts attention. Not because every coin is rare, but because every coin from this era carries a question. And questions create curiosity. And curiosity creates stories. Today's focus is the 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, it looks completely normal. Same Abraham Lincoln portrait. Same wheat stalk design. Same copper color that faded with time. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. Just another penny from the 1950s. But coins are never judged only by appearance. They are judged by journey. And the journey of this coin is where things become interesting. The 1955 wheat penny entered circulation during a time when America was changing rapidly. Post-war growth was strong. Cities were expanding. Small businesses were growing everywhere. Cash was used for almost everything. And pennies moved constantly through the system. From store counters. To cash registers. To pockets. To jars at home. Millions of coins were circulating every single day. And this penny became part of that massive flow. When it first left the mint, it was perfect. Bright copper shine. Sharp design details. Strong and clean surface. It looked like every other newly minted coin. But that condition never lasts in real circulation. The moment this penny entered the economy, its life began to change. It may have been used in a grocery store transaction. Or handed over at a gas station. Or dropped into a collection jar at home without being noticed. No one recorded its path. No one documented its movement. But movement always leaves evidence. Over time, the coin began to transform. The shine faded. The surface developed tiny marks. The edges became softer. The copper tone darkened with age. And what once looked new now carried the appearance of experience. But this is not damage. This is history in physical form. Collectors understand this better than anyone. Because to them, a coin is not just about value. It is about survival. A coin that has circulated for decades has lived a real journey. It has passed through countless hands. It has witnessed thousands of everyday moments. And it has survived all of them without disappearing. Think about the number of places this coin may have traveled. Small town shops. Busy city markets. roadside diners, school cafeterias, family homes. Each location adds another invisible layer to its story. And over time, those layers become history. Even today, 1955 wheat pennies still appear in circulation finds and old collections. Some are heavily worn. Some are lightly circulated. Some were forgotten for decades before being rediscovered. Each example is different, because each coin lived a different life. That is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. No two coins are identical in experience. Even coins minted on the same day can end up with completely different histories. One may be preserved. One may be heavily worn. One may travel across states. Another may remain in a single location for years. And yet all of them started the same way. That uncertainty is what gives coins their mystery. The 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny represents that idea perfectly. A simple object. A familiar design. But a deeply complex journey hidden beneath its surface. And while many people overlook it as just pocket change, collectors see something different. They see movement. They see survival. They see history preserved in copper. And that brings us closer to the final chapter of this story. A coin from an earlier year. A coin connected to a more powerful historical era. A coin that completes this three-part journey. The year is 1944. A wartime penny with a story that shaped American coin history in a different way. And its story comes next. Now we reach the final stop of this journey. And this is where the story becomes deeper than just coins. Because some coins are not only part of circulation. They are part of history itself. And the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny is exactly that kind of coin. At first glance, it looks simple. A copper penny. Abraham Lincoln on the front. Wheat stalks on the reverse. A design that millions of Americans recognize instantly. But behind this simple appearance lies a powerful historical era. 1944 was not an ordinary year. The world was still shaped by war. Every resource mattered. Every material had importance. Even the smallest pieces of metal were part of national effort and industrial production. And coins were no exception. The 1944 wheat penny entered circulation during this intense period of global history. But what makes this coin interesting is not just the year. It is what it represents. When this penny was first released, it was new, bright, and full of detail. The copper surface reflected light clearly. Lincoln's portrait was sharp. The wheat design was strong and defined. It looked perfect in the beginning. Just another coin entering circulation. But coins are not created to stay in perfect condition. They are created to move. To circulate. To pass through hands. And that is exactly what happened. The moment this penny entered the economy, its journey began. It may have been used in wartime America. Small shops. Local markets. Simple transactions between everyday people. No one thought about preservation. No one considered historical value. It was just money. A tool of daily life. But over time, that simple coin became something much more meaningful. Because every time it changed hands, it collected history. Every scratch represents movement. Every worn surface represents time. Every faded detail represents survival. And the 1944 wheat penny survived everything. Decades passed. The war ended. America changed. New generations were born. Technology advanced. Cash systems evolved. But this coin remained part of circulation. Some examples were heavily used. Some were stored and forgotten. Some were rediscovered years later in old jars and collections. Each coin carries a different journey. No two 1944 pennies lived the same life. And that is what makes them fascinating. Because coins are not just objects. They are witnesses. Silent witnesses to human life. Think about how many moments the single penny may have passed through. A soldier returning home. A family buying groceries. A child receiving change for the first time. A shopkeeper handing it across a counter. All of these moments are small. But together, they form a long timeline of everyday history. And the coin was there for it. Not recording it. Not documenting it. But existing through it. That is the hidden beauty of circulated coins. They are not preserved history. They are lived history. Even today, 1944 wheat pennies are still found in collections and old coin jars. Some are worn smooth from decades of use. Some still carry visible detail. Some were saved unknowingly. Some were rediscovered by collectors who had no idea what they were holding. Each coin represents survival. Survival through time. Survival through human activity. Survival through generations. And that survival gives them meaning far beyond their face value. Because value is not always about money. Sometimes value is about history. About connection. About the story an object carries across time. And the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny carries one of the most important stories in American coin history. It represents an era of resilience. An era of change. An era where even the smallest object played a role in everyday life. Now, as we look back at this entire journey, we see a complete picture. 1953 D representing circulation and survival. 1955 representing mystery and movement. 1944 representing history and endurance. 3 coins. 3 different eras. 3 different stories. But one shared truth. They all survived. And in that survival, they became more than just pennies. They became time capsules. Silent witnesses of American history. And that is where our journey ends. But the curiosity never truly does. Because every coin you hold today might have a story you haven't discovered yet.